So now let's talk about applying adjustment layers to individual images or individual layers. So let's go back. Let's look at my color balance one. So let's see here. Here's my color balance, and I want to make it that is pretty extreme. So that's great. So this image, so this adjustment layer right here, color balance, it's very extreme, but I only want to apply it to this model. So here's what you can do. There's a couple different ways on how to do this, and this is the first way. The first way is called a clipping mask, And here's what you do. First, you position this layer on top of, oh shoot, let me see if I can make my layers bigger. Here we go. Okay, good. Now I can see them a little better. Let's see. Okay. So the first step is I want to position this layer on top of the layer I want it to affect. I'll just move this one down. So here it is. This is my adjustment layer, and it's on top of the layer I want it to affect. If it wasn't, like let's say this was down here for some reason, you just drag it to be on top. So here's my adjustment layer. I would drag it to be on top of this layer because I only want to affect this layer. It's my model. So I just drag it up, you just drag it. It highlights, and there it is. I only want it to affect this layer, and here's how easy it is. The thing is, you're gonna forget, so I'll tell you guys a couple times, but you can watch the video again, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's it. It's as easy as this. You position it on top, you go to your options for layers, options, and it's a create clipping mask. So it's as easy as that. It's just that everyone forgets to do create clipping mask, but that's it. So watch, I'll show you. Create clipping mask, there it is. Now you can only tell, well, I'll show you, but it's only affecting this model. Watch, I'm gonna hide the adjustment layer. So I'm gonna hide it. And oh yeah, she's back to normal. And there she is with the adjustment layer. So you can go back and forth. It's kind of nice. And now the question is, how do you identify that that is an adjustment layer? Here's how. It has this little, well, it's super small, but there's a little bent arrow pointing down to the layer underneath. So it's indented, and it has a little bent arrow pointing down to the layer directly underneath. That's how you know that is an adjustment layer. So let's see, it doesn't say it's an adjustment layer, but it has that little picture. And again, it's probably super tiny on my screen, but that's it. The nice thing about an adjustment layer is you can still adjust it. Like I can adjust the color balance. So watch, she's pretty orange. I actually kind of like it, but let's say I don't want her to be that orange. So I'm gonna go to her shadows maybe, and I'm gonna bring those down to green, right? And then maybe I'll just leave it at that. So you can adjust the adjustment layer when it is a clipping mask. All right, let's try a different one. I'll just show you this a couple times. Let's see, what's this one? Oh, here's the picture frame. Okay, and let's see some of these weird ones. Brightness, contrast, oh, black and white. Let's do the black and white one. So I want this, I mean, I don't, but for the demonstration, I want it. I want this to be black and white. So I take my black and white adjustment layer, and currently it's turned off. It's turned off meaning it's invisible. I'm gonna drag that to be on top of my picture frame, or painting, I call it painting. So here it is, it's on top. I'm gonna make it visible so you can see it. It's affecting, an adjustment layer will affect everything underneath it. That's why it's affecting everything but my model here. She's on top of it, but this will affect every layer underneath unless I make it a clipping mask. So here it is, I position it on top of the layer I want it to affect. I go to my option button for layers, and I do create clipping mask. And so there it is. So now this adjustment layer, the black and white, is only affecting the painting. And there it is, voila. There's another, let's see, let's do one more. Let's see, oh, here's my beautiful, I love this flower. This flower's awesome. Let's see what I can do for this one. Let's see, oh, the photo filter, let's see. Yeah, the photo filter is not so extreme. Let's make it really extreme. Let's make it like red. Oh, well, wow, that's monochromatic. Okay, but there it is. So I'm gonna hide this for now. I'm gonna hide the photo filter effect layer. Anyways, I'm gonna drag this to be on top of my flower. So I'm gonna drag it to be on top of my flower. So here it is. I'm going to make it visible. It's going to affect everything underneath. So a lot of different stuff is kind of reddish. And then I want this adjustment layer, the photo filter adjustment layer, to only affect the flower. So I need to go to my option button for layers, option, create clipping mask. There's a shortcut here, Alt-Control-G, but I always just go here. You can also go to layer menu. So I can go layer, clipping mask, right? So you get a lot of layer options under here too. So whatever you like, I don't care how you do it. I'll just do it this way, create clipping mask. There it is. So now it's only affecting my flower. But here's what you want to do when you do this stuff. Test it, because watch, I'm going to test it. So watch, I'm going to hide my red photo filter adjustment layer on my flower. I'm going to hide the layer. And if you can see the difference, that means it's working. What happens is, let me show you what happens. I'm just going to hide that one. Sometimes a student will make an adjustment layer, like, I don't know, I'm just going to make one. Color balance. And they don't change anything. And then they make it a clippy mask. So they're like, okay, I'll make it a clippy mask. Clippy mask. And what happens is nothing has changed. It's because they didn't change the properties. So make sure you don't make this mistake. So what happens is, here's what you want to do. You apply your clipping mask to your layer or image. Then hide the adjustment layer. There's nothing, see, I'm hiding it. Nothing is changing. And it's like, oh, why is that not changing? It's because I didn't change the properties. So you can select it. If I was a student and I found out that this adjustment layer is ineffective, it's not doing anything, I select it, I go to my properties panel, and I just change the properties. It's like bright, this is an extreme, but actually doesn't look too bad. Contrast, bright, that's a lot. I told you not to use that much. So there it is. Now when I hide this adjustment layer, it's like, oh yeah, it's almost affecting it too much. It doesn't have to be, when you use an adjustment layer, it doesn't have to be an extreme result like that. Like, let me show you. Like, I will check it, because this is a hard lesson to learn. When you use adjustment layers, your first impression is like, I can go crazy. Like, you want to go extreme. You want to go like bright and contrast. And this is like, you almost want to get this out of your system. This flower has a lot of image data, so it doesn't look so crappy. But when you do that on low image quality images, they blow out and they don't look very good. This flower is really handling this extreme effect. I'm really surprised. But anyways, my lesson for you is less is more. It doesn't have to be, I mean, unless you really need it. But like sometimes only a slight, like this is only 16 and maybe like 5. I changed it, so watch. It's a subtle effect, but you don't want to go too crazy. It's a little brighter. Now watch, I'm going to hide the effect. Let's see. Yeah, it might be hard to see on the zoom, but it's a subtle effect. But that's how I'm going to grade it. Like, I'm going to look at your adjustment layers and I'm going to hide them. And I want to see that something's changing. It needs to change a little bit. Another problem I get is sometimes students are too shy. They're too shy when it comes to adjustment layers. And like, they don't do, like, they do like something goofy like this. It's like I can't even get that low. Like, they'll do like 2% brightness and -1 contrast. And it's like, I'm like, what? Like, I can't even tell. And I hide it. And it's like, I don't see any change. And then I look at the numbers. I'm like, oh, their numbers on the properties panel are so small that you can barely tell. You should be able to tell the difference. Like, so something like 10 or like even 12, like even this, I'll be able to tell, but you may not be able to see over the zoom. So don't be too shy, but don't be too crazy either. That's the lesson. I'll let you decide what's too much or what's too little, but don't do too little because then I won't be able to tell. Okay, so that's how you apply. Look at all these adjustment layers. I want to delete them all. Okay, hold on. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Oh, one more question. Let's look at my model here. So right now she has a color balance adjustment layer. Your question is, can I apply more than one adjustment layer to that layer? You can. So I want to do a brightness contrast on her. So let's see, I'm going to go new adjustment layer. I'm going to go brightness contrast. Now here's a trick. I can adjust it right now, the adjustment layer, but it'll make everything brighter. A common thing that a lot of people do is they make it a clipping mask first so that it only affects her before they change the properties on that. So I'll leave it up to you. I can make this brighter right now, or I can wait. Oh gosh, I gotta put this back to 0. Or I can wait. I'm gonna make it a clipping mask first on this model. So I position it on top of the other clipping mask that's on top of the layer I want to affect. So I'm gonna go Option, Create Clipping Mask. Okay, so now this is a clipping mask. Nothing has changed yet, but I made it a clipping mask first. Now I'm gonna adjust the brightness. So now she's brighter. I'm just gonna make it extreme so you can see it on the zoom. Add some contrast. She's pretty extreme here. There. So now I have 2 adjustment layers. I have a brightness contrast on her, and I have a color balance. Wow, I like it way better with these adjustment layers. And I'll leave it up to you. That is a very common thing to do. You will probably do that. You will probably apply more than one adjustment layer to an image. But what you don't want to do is don't do 2 color balances on like a layer, because that'll counterbalance it, right? Like, so if you do one, well, you know, I take that back. It's not necessarily wrong, but it's ineffective. So like, for instance, let me tell you how you do it, because don't tell your other teachers this, but potentially if it works, it's okay. But your other teachers may not like that level of thinking. For instance, let's say you do a color balance adjustment layer that's red, and you kind of make her more red. And you're like, oh, I really like that. But you're kind of maxed out on those numbers for that adjustment layer, but she's pretty red. And you're like, okay. You're like, well, Dave, can't I just do another color balance adjustment layer and do red on that, and it like multiplies the red? Yeah, you could do something like that. I don't recommend it. But things like that are possible. It's just that it's ineffective for my class, but when you're in the real world, you may think of stuff like that. Like, usually with color, like you can double up color or things like that. But anyways, for now, it would probably not be a good idea to do 2 color balance adjustment layers, especially if you do like 1 red and 1 green, they counteract each other. Whatever, don't worry about that. But yes, you can do more than 1 adjustment layer. Okay, great. Now, what else do we need to do for our homework? You need to put, okay, let me hide, oh, I'll keep those on. So let's see, I've got this, oh man. My project 2 is in this folder. So another thing you can do is you can apply a clipping mask to a whole layer group, and it will affect all the layers in that group. In fact, let's try something here real quick. Let's experiment. I'm gonna move, oh, one more quick question. So here's my flower. I wanna move this, I wanna move my flower underneath these folders, but the problem is these adjustment layers, they're not attached to it. So watch, it's gonna screw up. I believe if I move this down, these will become normal layers. Let me find out. I'm gonna drag this down. Yes. So what happened was I dragged my flower down, and Photoshop was thinking, because Photoshop is a living person, was thinking, hey, what are you doing? Like, it's not really a living person, but it didn't know what to do. So it made these non-clipping masks. It just says, well, these are just normal layers now. So I'm gonna undo that. So what I can do is I have a choice. If I want all 3 of these, so I have my flower layer and I have 2 adjustment layers that are clipping masks. If I want these to move together, I can link them. How do you link them? You want to select all of the layers you want to be linked together. So you can hold Control or Shift. I use Control, so I'm going to hold Control to select. I selected all 3 of these layers. And then at the bottom of your screen, there's a little chain link. So if I click on this chain link, there's a little chain link there, and now they move together. But I've never tried to move it. Let's see if it works. I hope this works. It's gonna be so embarrassing if this doesn't work. Here, I'm gonna deselect. I'm gonna move the flower down here. Let's see if they all move together. They may not. Oh, they didn't. Okay, never mind. Okay, so this would be useful. This is why you link them. When you link them and you move your flower, they move with it, like this. I failed. I don't do it this way. I don't use linking. Okay, so watch. Let me show you. You're like, Dave, you don't know what you're talking about. No, I do. So here's what you should do. If you want these all to move together, you have to put them into a group. So you'd put these into a layer group, then you move the whole layer group underneath. Okay, so this is how I normally do it. Okay, here we go. I selected all three. Layers that I want to put into a group. I'm going to go to option for layers, option, and I'm going to go new group from layers. And that means new group from selected layers. So I'm going to click here, and I'll even, I clicked it, didn't I? Whoa. Okay, let me try that again. Oh, okay, it's on my other screen. So here's my thing. So I would name it flower. Okay, so I'm gonna hit okay. So here's my layer, or my layer group, okay? Now I can move this, and they're all in there. I can click on this arrow to look inside. All three images are in there. Now I can drag this to be underneath stuff. So I'm gonna drag it to be underneath. Now, well, you can't even see it. I could drag it up to be on top. Oh, those are affecting everything. So lame. Okay. So see how what's happening is, okay, this is good. This is good that I made this mistake. So I can move them all together. This is good, because this is what you have to do. I can move them all together. No, it's working. Wait, so I did something weird. Oh no, it's working. I screwed up. I clicked on something weird. But that's it. That appears to be working. But there's another way I could have done this. So let me show you this. Oh, that's why. Oh, it's so stupid. It sucks because I'm recording this. Okay, so here we go. Let's see if I got this right. So what did I do wrong? I accidentally dragged my flower group into my project 2 group. So I'm gonna drag this out, and you can drag them out in and out as needed if you make a mistake like me. This should go in here. I'm gonna put it in that project 2 group, layer group. Okay, there it is. Okay, here's my flower group. Wow. My flower group has my flower and my 2 adjustment layers. Okay, and then I want to drag, what happened was, I think when I screwed up anyways, it's okay. And then flower, I'm gonna drag my flower to see if it affects my other model. It doesn't. Okay, good, so that's great. So it's working as expected. So when you put your adjustment layers, your clipping masks, they need to be a clipping mask, these 2 layers, onto your image within that group, it will work. So it works. So that's another thing you can do. But for your homework, there's one more thing you have to do. So let me show you this. I could have done it like this. I could have kept this flower in the group, and I could have applied these adjustment layers as a clippy mask directly to the group. So watch this. Let's see here. I'm going to drag this here. Okay, now that's affecting everything. I'm going to drag this here. Okay. Oh gosh, so much stuff in here. Close. Okay. So I want these 2 adjustment, complicated, huh? These 2 adjustment layers to only affect this group, okay? Okay, so I select, it's on top. So here's my adjustment layer. It's on top of the layer or layer group I want it to affect. Okay, it's on top. I'm gonna go to my option button for layers, and I'm gonna do create clippy mask. So now this photo filter only affects the group, and the only thing in the group is the flower. So there it is. Great. Same thing with this brightness contrast. I want to make this a clippy mask. Okay, so now both of these are only affecting the flower. Let's see, let me hide them. Yep, okay, good. Now here's the trick. These are out, now normally if you're, normally you're not moving stuff around so much, right? And that's why I'm not 100% sure. So we're going to find out if I'm wrong or not. Normally, I just set this up and it's good to go, and I don't normally link it. But let's see what happens if I move my flower group. Let's see if these clippy mask adjustment layers turn back to normal layers. So let's find out. I'm going to drag this down. I don't think they're going to move with it. Correct. They didn't move with it, and they became normal adjustment layers. So I'm going to undo. Okay, so here, let's see if the linking, I don't think the linking is going to work either. I'm going to select all three of these, and I'm going to link them. But I think, I don't think it's going to work. Let's find out. Nope. So you're like, Dave, what do I do? Here's what you do. Just don't do this. I'm kidding. If I wanted this group to be underneath this group, I would move this down. Then I would move my adjustment layers down and on top of it and just do a clippy mask again. So there's no real perfect way to do it. The perfect way to do it is to do these clipping masks inside the group like how I did earlier. And then you can move the whole group. That's the best way to do it. And you're like, and it sounds complicated. And you're like, oh, well, why don't I just, here, I'll show you. I'll show you what it is. This is the best way to do it. And then, okay, so they're inside the group. And then inside the group, you do a clippy mask. Hello, clippy mask. Okay. This is the best way to do it. I'm laughing because this is not how you're supposed to do it for your homework. So this is the best way to do it. They're inside the group. I can move the group. This is how I work. This is how I normally work. You know what? I'm going to let you do it this way because this is the way I work. And the other way is weird. This is how I work. I always use groups. I always use groups because groups are self-contained. They're organized. They're useful if you have a lot of elements. Right now, we don't have a lot of elements. But if you're working on super complicated stuff, you will have a lot of elements, a lot of groups. And it's easy to duplicate groups. I love groups. This is how we do it. This is how I do it. So I will let you do it this way. Okay? So for your homework, you're supposed to have adjustment layers that are applied to a group. But not like this, but I will allow this. You might do this on accident. You're like, this is the best way to do it. Like you might think that way intuitively. And that's fine. I will allow this because this is how I normally work. But here's how you're supposed to do it. Let me show you. And you can do it this way too. Currently, I only have, let's see. Let me find it. Oh my gosh. Where's my project 2? Hold on. Let me hide some of these. We don't need these. Oh, here it is. Boy. Okay, so here's my project 2. Wow, I'm staring right at it. So here's my project 2. So here's how you're supposed to do it for the homework. I have a group. I only have one layer in there. I only have one layer, but I could have more than one layer. In fact, maybe I'll drag this. No, why not? I'm going to drag this in there. I'm going to drag my picture in there. I'm going to put this on top of this. Okay, and I'm going to hide this one. Okay, so I have 2 layers in my project 2 group. And what I want to do is I'm going to apply a color balance adjustment layer to this group. So watch, I'll just go adjustment layer, color balance. I'm going to make this one purple. So I'm going to go blue and magenta. Okay. So now currently it's affecting everything. I only want it to affect project 2. So here's, well, yeah. So anyways, I select it and I'm going to make a clippy mask of this adjustment layer onto this group. So I'm going to go options, create clippy mask. So here you can see that an adjustment layer is, this adjustment layer is only applied to this group. And so that's the way you're kind of supposed to do it for homework, but I will allow it the way I just showed you. I'll show you one more time. inside this flower group, I have a layer and I have 2 adjustment layers that are clipping mask that are applied to this layer, the flower layer. That's a good way to work because it's easy to move that flower asset around. In fact, I need to move it. I need to move it in front. So I'm going to move it on top of here. And there it is. You can see it again. I can move it even higher. I can move it in front of this person if I wanted to. You know, you can do whatever you want. But that's the nice feature of using a layer group. Okay, finally, there's one more thing I have to tell you about this. You need to try to use this mask. So you need to try to use a, oh, let me show you. Let's see, I'm gonna pick this model. So let's see. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna pick this model and I'm gonna apply a, adjustment layer. So I'll just do color balance. So let's see, I'm gonna go here. I got one right here, color balance. Okay, that's pretty crazy. And let me get rid of this. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to apply this to the model. So I'm going to apply it to the model with a clipping mask. Okay, but it's affecting her whole body, right? Her dress and her skin and her hair. I only want this to adjust her skin and not her outfit. So what I'm going to do is on the adjustment layer right here, it's a white mask, meaning a white mask is not hiding anything. Everything is revealed. But if I paint black in this mask, I'll be able to have only her skin affected. So watch, I'm going to go black. I got my brush. I'm going to make my brush smaller. And I'm going to start painting black. There, see? And you can see that you see the effect of me hiding. It's hard to see. There's a little black spot there. Here, I'll do this. I'll do it fast, just so you get the idea. But you'll be neater, right? Like you'll be like super careful. I'm just going to be. So I'm painting black in the layer mask for that adjustment layer. So that affects only her skin and not her dress. Now you're thinking, well, could I have done it the other way? Could I have done it where it only affects her dress but not her skin? Like maybe I want to hide her skin. Yeah, you could do that. I don't care. But let me show you what this means. Oh gosh, let me just do this real quick. It's kind of sloppy. I'll probably do her boots. See, this is a little sloppy, and I'll probably do her boots too. You're probably thinking, I like it better with that color over everything. I agree. I mean, it looks good. But the point of this is, even though, okay, let me zoom out. Even though I have this color balance adjustment layer only on her, I can go further and only have it on her skin, part of the layer, instead of her dress. So you need to have, I hate to say it, your handout says 3 of these. Yeah, so that's hard. You need to do 3 of these. I'll do one more real quick to show you. So not only do I have a clipping mask on her, but I have a layer mask on that adjustment layer. So it only affects part of her image. Just let me quickly do another one. I'll do this flower real quick. Let's see, flower. Here we go. So let's see. Well, okay. So here's my, the photo filter. I'll do this one. So notice how on my flower here, I have 2 adjustment layers. I have brightness and I have photo filter. Well, this one, I want everything else to be bright, but not the center. In fact, I'm going to hide her so she's out of the way. So I'm going to pick black. I'm going to paint black in this mask. So here we go. Again, this is going to be just kind of quick and sloppy. You would be real careful and go in there. You can't even, you can barely see the effect. It's there, it's subtle. Here, what I need to do is I just need to adjust this effect so it's crazier. There, okay. Okay, so again, that's kind of sloppy and it doesn't look very good. But that's it. I mean, that's the trick. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to, white will kind of reveal. Okay, that's pretty good. So what did I do? In this brightness contrast adjustment layer, I painted black in the mask. So it hid this portion of that flower. So this portion of the flower is not affected by the brightness contrast adjustment layer. Now, my brightness contrast adjustment layer is pretty extreme, so I'm going to just bring that down a little bit, maybe to something like, whatever. You can see it there. Finally, I'm going to do the photo filter too. So this is making things more red. Ooh, okay. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. This time, I'm going to paint black in the first, whatever, this part of the flower. So I'm using black to hide the effect of the red photo filter. Oh my gosh. This is kind of sloppy. There it is. Okay, so here we go. This doesn't look that great. The tricky part is to make this look good and effective. Well, I can make it good and effective if the effect is not so extreme. That's one thing I can do. I can clean up my mask a little better, so that's not so bad. That'll make it look a little cleaner. But here's what you need to do. Not only do I have 2 clipping masks on my flower, but within that clipping mask, there's a layer mask. And I have painted black to hide the effect of that adjustment layer in that area on the flower. So that's pretty complicated. So if you doesn't make sense, I'm going to put this up in the recording in the week, what is this, week 4? I think it's week 4. I'll put it in there. You can watch this and can get to this part and watch this. It's tricky. So this fulfills, let's see, this fulfills a few different portions of my project grade. First, I have 2 clipping masks. Great. Then I have 2 adjustment layers. Great. And I have 2 adjustment layers that also have a layer mask. That is pretty complicated. But that's it. That's what you need to do. So I think I'm done talking about this. But that's the basics of what you need to do for homework. I'm going to stop recording and then I'll answer your questions and we'll talk about setting this up. So let me stop recording first.